in news first. CNBC-TV18 News Break confirmed Lupin has received the US FDA nod for the generic version of gSpiriva. To dig deeper in terms of what it means for Lupin, we have Vishal Manchanda, who's the pharma analyst at Systematix Group, and Cyndrella Carvalho of GM Financial joining in on the line to discuss all this and more. Vishal as well as Cyndrella, thanks very much for joining in. Well, this is a development that the street has been tracking since all the way since FY22, FY23, that when exactly will Lupin receive the US FDA nod for gSpiriva generic? Break it down for us, and Vishal, I'll start with you. What is the, or rather Cyndrella, I'll start with you, ladies first. What is the market size of the handheld version which Lupin has received approval for? And what is the estimated earnings that you've baked in FY24?
So thanks, Ekta. And the estimated market size is around 50% of the overall gSpiriva sales, which we expect around somewhere around $600 to $650 million. And with that, what we are baking in is around a 50% price erosion, which kind of gives us, it depends on when are they going to launch. To my understanding, their earlier guidance was August launch. However, with the approval by June, we expect it should be preponed and we could see a July launch, but we have to get the confirmation on that. So overall, we believe somewhere around 45 to 50 million, assuming an earlier preponement of the launch. Otherwise, we were building it from the second half. So overall, we believe that this could be a 45 million to 50 million in the FY24. Type of a top line coming into them, which could mean around almost 3.5 to 4 rupees EPS in our sense of estimates.
So for FY24, you're estimating $45 to $50 million in terms of sales, which would equal to around 3 to 4 rupees in terms of an EPS addition.
Correct.
And that would scale up to what in FY25?
Could be closer to 80 to $90 million with almost 5 to 6 rupees contribution to the EPS. That's our assumption based on a gradual ramp up on the market share side. And we expect a 3-player market, basically, with authorized generics from the innovator.
Okay, $45 to $50 million in FY24, which can scale up to $80 million in FY25. Vishal, your take on this one, what have you baked in terms of additional revenues or the market size for this particular drug, and how much could it add to the EPS?
Hi, so I think this is about $450 million market opportunity, wherein we are expecting between $80 to $100 million for Lupin in FY25. This year, they might be somewhere between $25 to $40 million, depending on how they ramp it up. A meaningful opportunity for them, but it's in the numbers, so it's baked into the consensus EPS largely. I think the stock probably has reacted to most of the upside that we expect from the opportunity.
Okay, I just want to get the peak estimates. Cyndrella, I wanted to understand what is the maximum that you think Lupin can make in terms of sales from gSpiriva generic, and by when do you think it'll peak out?
I think a closer to 100 is something which we are looking at a top number that could be there at max, at peak levels. However, it all depends on market conditions, right? So we will have to be cognizant about all these things. So that is it. And I agree with Vishal. See, these things we have already baked into our numbers, no doubt about it. But I think the early approval gives us 1 quarter advantage if that comes in. So that is what will drive the 1 quarter benefit if the preponement of launch happens.
Okay, so you're estimating maybe $100 million in terms of peak sales by FY25. Vishal, would you concur with that view? That's the maximum they can probably make from this particular drug?
Broadly, $100 million is the peak number, plus they have a Canada approval, which should add to this a bit, maybe a $10 to $20 million more if on the Canada, upside from Canada.
Okay.
Okay, so $120 million would be the peak sales, both from Canada and US FDA approval that has come by as well. Vishal, what is your take on the stock? Because Lupin did see good numbers in Q4. Now this approval has come by. Do you expect this outperformance to continue? What are the key triggers or key approvals that are pending for this company also going forward? What is your target price and rating on the stock?
Yeah, so we have a hold on Lupin. One key approval apart from Spiriva that we can expect in the next maybe 1 year would be an injectable product called glucagon, which they've been guiding for. That as well could be a meaningful opportunity, not as large as Spiriva, but maybe in the $20-30 million range. So that's another large approval. But I think from an upside perspective, I think there is don't see any significant upside because all of these opportunities are not sustainable in the numbers. Maybe Spiriva will last for 3 years, and not sure whether glucagon will come. So that uncertainty around complex generics always persists in companies.
Okay, well, the key clincher was probably that Health Canada approval that came through just a couple of weeks ago for Spiriva generic. And generally, both those markets go hand in hand, so that's correct. But Vishal, what did Lupin do in terms of the entire US generics when it came to the total sales from the US generics in FY23? And do you think that it could probably scale up to over $800 million in terms of total sales for the US because of Spiriva generic?
Yes, definitely. I think the FY25 numbers should potentially exceed that $800 million mark. I think we'll see very good numbers in the coming quarters. Even without Spiriva, they have launched this generic Prezista, which should help them in Q2. And then Q3 onwards, Spiriva should start ramping up. So the US momentum should keep building up. And if they get additional approvals, it will get stronger from where it is. Only thing where we get worried is the sustainability of this momentum and the erosion risk that always exists in the US business.
Okay, so you have a hold rating on the stock and you think there's one drug that could aid potentially to earnings in FY24 as well. Cyndrella, what's your take on Lupin stock? Do you think there are enough triggers and levers in FY24 for the stock to go higher from these levels, or do you think most of it is baked in the price?
We also have a hold rating on the stock. The idea is we want to see the EBITDA margin improvement on a consistent basis. I think that has been one area which we've been watching closely. They've started doing better on it, but technically the first half remains seasonally weaker on US. So we really need to see how that works. Of course, Spiriva will help and the other approvals which have come in will also help. But the idea is that overall business have to deliver a consistent EBITDA margin. Once we see that trajectory coming up with the newer approvals stacking in, then we will be reviewing our rating on the stock.
Okay. All right, Vishal as well as Cyndrella, thanks very much for joining in and speaking to us. So that is some amount of price and volume action that you've seen for Lupin, which is up around 5% at this point in time, high point of the day after receiving approval for the inhaler drug, which is used for lung conditions from the US market, Spiriva generic. Time for a short break, but once we